I'm not even a Christmas carol guy, as I've mentioned in the past
Same
when
here.
we
Yeah.
we talk about this stuff.
So
But this,
what we do 4 episodes based on Christmas songs. Yeah.
yeah. Ho, 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 hello, everybody out there in the YouTube sphere. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Audiophiles. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas Eve to everyone who's tuned in. We really do appreciate your presence here on the channel. John, how are you, man?
Presents.
That time of year.
Yeah,
So,
I'm good.
good, good, excellent, excellent. And speaking of that time of the year, John is going to be offering me up some sort of festive tune, at least holiday adjacent, I would assume, in sound quality or content. What have you got in store for us today, my friend?
Well, 'tis Christmas Eve,
Tis.
and all is still and quiet, apart from the local meth heads um, rummaging through bins and people returning from the pub with decorating the town with street pizzas. um, Beautiful, beautiful sight. So I picked something atmospheric and wonderful. Um, I might have talked about this band off camera view. I can't remember if I have. The band is called Plinth.
Yeah, yeah, the name rings a bell. I remember you bringing them up. I think when we were weeks ago discussing hashing out our two picks for this week. But that is the extent of it. Also, I do know that I think you had mentioned that it was an instrumental, so there aren't going to be any vocals in this track.
Provide your own. But yeah, so this track is called Hearth.
Okay. That seems apropos for the wintry months.
Yeah.
So, excellent. Well, I know it has no lyrics. I know it's by a band called Plinth. And I know it's called Hearth. I guess that's really all I need to know at this point. So let me go
Mm.
off, give it my best listen, and I will come back and let you know what I made of it, my friend. This is very pensive or contemplative, the sound. It's fairly simple, but there are these little elements all working together to create this I don't know, this very simple but gorgeous soundscape that you can just sort of fall into and become sort of hypnotized by or entranced by. Uh, it's very, very pretty. Oh, sleigh bells approaching from the distance. Okay, guitar's evolving a little bit more here. Mm. Has this reflective quality. Like it's the soundtrack to a memory. There's like strings. There's sleigh bells. Just get lost in this. The resonance of those strings. Ugh. Simple but elegant and beautiful. And for me listening to this, and it's definitely helps that it has no lyrics, so that the music can kind of on its own set the tone and the mood. And there is this weird quality that it has that it instantly transports me to like sitting in my living room in my old farmhouse that I grew up in, and looking out the bay window as like the snow that everything's quiet. Outside the snow's falling, making no sound, you know, blanketing the trees. There's a stray cardinal here or there perched. Our Tennessee walking horses out in the distance in a fenced in pasture huddled together. And I can smell the fire in the fireplace and the balsam of the Christmas tree in the corner. And it's like 9 years old again or something. Yeah, it's really, really pretty and comforting. And it like triggers the amygdala, like the part of the brain that like processes both emotions and memories. And isn't that interesting that the part of the brain that is charged with, you know, regulating and experiencing emotions also is tied to the memory as well. I think that's interesting. And this song triggers that and starts to make it like it activates it, and it invigorates it, and it takes me it takes me back. And what a wonderful feeling to have sort of around the holidays, where you get this sort of glimpse back into history in a very wintry setting, very holiday. I mean, this isn't overtly a Christmas song, but it does take me to the to those times in my past, and it's warming and cathartic and all of those things wrapped into one. Yeah, this was really, really, really pretty. I enjoyed listening to this a lot. So simple, but an absolute success in being a song that is so evocative, and paints these pictures in your head. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. That's kind of a surprise, um, for me. I didn't think my feelings were going to be so strong after hearing this. Um, and maybe it's because of how subtle it is. It's not so heavy-handed, like holiday Christmas cheer. It's none of that. It's just beauty and simplicity. Uh, and it does such an expert job in transplanting me back in time into visuals and memories that I rarely harken back to. Perhaps it takes things like this to take you there. Perhaps the older you get, the older I get. Yeah, this is a lot of this is a lot of fun to listen to. Um, and a great experience. I can't wait to learn more about this. It says winter song, so I'm assuming this is an album of songs akin to this. So I'd really like to learn more about it and the band, and learn why John chose this. What interesting personal, maybe anecdotes he has that makes this such a standout song for him, uh, especially around, the holidays. So yeah, only one way to find all of that out, and that is to return to our friend John. So let's do just that.
Kindergarten Cop is back. So you've had a listen to Plinth and Hearth, and if you liked it, I'll give you the follow-up, which is three quarters. What did you reckon?
I did really like this a lot. I don't know if it's the nature of the song and the absence of vocals really allowed for some like reflection, and the song has these qualities about it as well. But to
Mm,
really like step back or within my own mind, and again, we've talked about this with other songs, this ability to conjure visions, um whether correlated with memories or just what unfolds naturally in the mind's eye as you listen to the music. This, I think, could easily offer both of those, and it did for me for sure. When I gave this a listen, it starts with that slightly resonant strike of this like chiming sounding chord, and then the tinkling of some very contemplative piano notes, and in between there are these like rudimentary, almost metronomic plucks of like a guitar string that are going on. And from the distance comes the sound of sleigh bells, the quintessential sound to any holiday song. Um, and it made me smile. It warmed up the cocoa in my hands. Um, and it was interesting because it sounded like it was drawing near. And as they start to appear, the guitar work slightly evolves, and it starts dropping in these interesting little chord patterns every so often. And now it appears that the sleigh bells are once again kind of faded, or like not in the forefront of the music, but still very much there. But it was like that effect of like it coming close to you and then passing you, and then but staying at least within an earshot distance. Um, And there's something really pensive and reflective to the sound, which I mentioned right out of the gate. It's like the audio form of conjuring a memory of something in the distant past because it's not like something that happened 2 weeks ago. It's got this faded quality about it. The recall, at least my personal experience, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it was like I was recalling something from the distant past. And as the song progressed, the picture got clearer and clearer because I had more time to sit and think. Um, there's also some really resonant string work in the background, creating this broad musical canvas over top of which this constant motif by the other instruments can play. And I really loved that sound as well. It's just this sort of elongated monotone note, but it adds so much depth to what's going on musically. And I just begin to close my eyes and it's a little myopic, but I mean it's my experience listening to the song, so I don't know what other reaction I'm gonna have. But I close my eyes, could so vividly envision snowfall outside the bay window in my childhood living room. And I grew up in a large farmhouse, 5 bedroom old farmhouse, 3 fireplaces, 10 acres, horse farm with a wooded lot behind the house. It is incredibly picturesque when it's this time of the year when there's snow falling. So I'm
Mm.
taken back to sometimes just sitting on that couch that butted up against the bay window with my arm over the back, just looking out the front of the house, this huge window. And I see snowfall, blanketing hemlocks and firs and oaks and the earth from which they sprouted decades and decades before I was even born. And there's a stray cardinal that lands on a holly tree, and the horses, the Tennessee walkers, are kind of like huddled together as they do when it gets cold, out in the fenced-in pasture, a fence that is also has snow collected on it, and like a fire glows in the fireplace just behind me, and there's a illuminated Christmas tree in the corner of the room, a room that smells like burning white oak and balsam. And it's all so vivid, man. Like the visuals and even the smells of it all. And it's like I know
Excellent.
I lived this. Like I know this is a memory of my youth. Um, or maybe it's just this cobbled beast of a memory. Like it's pulling from other
Yeah,
little
yeah.
memories to become its own or something like that. It's so fucking weird what the brain can do. It's really cool. And that gets me into my next point, which is that this is really a soundtrack of winter nostalgia. It's soothing, it's cathartic, and it really activates and invigorates the amygdala, like the small part of your brain that this is really interesting in and of itself, that is in command of both your emotions and your ability to conjure, draw, retain memories. And I think it makes sense that memories, that the part of your brain that controls memories controls emotions because they're inextricably connected to one another. When you think of memories, they often conjure emotions. Sometimes the feeling of an emotion triggers a past trauma or memory. So it makes perfect sense. And this song did that for me. It like just I could feel it just stirring the shit in my head. Um, and I find myself more in the distant past vis-a-vis this memory than I do in the present actually listening to the song, which is hats off to the song and those who wrote it for being able to do that. And it really illustrates the power of like evocation, that this collective of rather simple sounds working together can muster. Because on their face value, each one of these things that makes up the whole are fairly rudimentary. There's not a lot, they're not doing a lot of heavy lifting musically, but together they're creating something really pretty, and evocative. It's this ability of the song coupled with its overall pleasant and enjoyable sounds that made me enjoy this experience so much. This was a great listen, and I thank you for sharing it, and giving me one more shot at revisiting this quasi holiday experience. It's at 16729 Round Hill Church Road. Stewartstown, Pennsylvania, because that's where I was firmly sat on this disgustingly floral pattern sofa that was positioned in front of the bay window, where we kept the largest of the three fireplaces and sometimes the Christmas tree. So yeah, this caught me off guard because I didn't think I was this was going to be something so visceral and personal to me. And yet it was able to do that without a fucking word being said, which is also impressive, and shows you the power of just music on its own. So yeah, this was great. I loved this, and I'm not going to listen to it a lot, but I can assure you that I'm going to put this on in future Christmas in hopes of getting this same high that I got today, this nostalgic buzz that it gave me.
Cool beans. Yeah. I won't get into this because I'll talk about this reaction to something else. But uh, Christmas songs, they come in different guises and they have different sort of purpose. Some are just pumped out to get you spending more money. Others are part of your sort of your celebrations, as it were, and you whack it on and you've had a few beers or whatever you partake of, and it goes on. And others are sort of contemplative or evocative. This track particularly, but this album's great, and it does. And this is for a different period of the holiday season. I feel this kind of feels, again, memory, but anticipation as well. So this is definitely a Christmas Eve song rather than a
Mm,
Christmas Day song. And it's just, yeah, there's quite a bit about it. I stumbled across this as part of a rather wonderful record label called Clay Pipe, which I highly recommend. They have their own sort of website and go on and order stuff, and it's all very limited edition and beautiful artwork, and stuff like that. And from that, a lot of artists that are very folk based, ambient, not a lot of words, and stuff came from that. And this is one that I found through that sort of avenue.
mm.
And the whole album's great, but this song in particular, there's something about it. This sort of blend of a bit of sort of Mike Oldfield tubular bells, and then a bit of sort of medieval balladry. That sort of you imagine someone strumming a lyre,
Yes.
but mixed in with all this other stuff as well. So you get this sort of childhood memory, but you're not sure if it's your own childhood memory or if it's some sort of weird tribal memory that's shared for many
Mm.
people. And it's probably a mixture of your own stuff and cultural memories, David Lean's, Christmas Carol or whatever, mixed in with, I don't know, trains, planes, and automobiles and other stuff, that gets you these sort of memories. And but I think in essence, for me, this track, because of the sleigh bells that have that movement as well, I imagine this track to be a distillation of a single frozen tear in a corner of a reindeer's eye. That's what this song is. That's what it sort of comes to me. But anyway, I'm gonna have to punting about. So yes, this is Hearth, third track on the album Winter Songs by Plinth. Not a lot on Tinternet about them, so here we go. This album was originally released on cassette in 1999, and it was then reissued in 2001 and 2006 on CD, and then reissued in 2014 and 2016 on vinyl. All of them limited editions, all of them sold out, so you have to
Yeah.
search to pick it out. This is from the liner notes, and it's quoted glockenspiel, trumpet, clarinet, guitar, clocks, fireplace, ring modulator, birds, teapot, train, voices, garden, sleigh bells, and cymbals were played by Michael Tanner and Stephen Da Costa. And then you also have Nicholas Palmer on piano and Julian Poidevin on melodica. So they say the idea, this is from the notes itself, quoting, I believe, yeah, Michael Tanner, who's the main driving force in Plinth and the subsequent albums. The idea came about after a chance rereading of Lucy Boston's Yuletide classic, Children of Green Know. That's a no for me. Stephen and myself set out to soundtrack the book, but only made it as far as Anniversary Waltz, which is a later piece that's very nice. And I think, yeah. But anyway, before deciding to embrace the winter theme as a whole, we only had a very rudimentary knowledge of instruments,
Oh,
the
wonderful.
evidence of which can be heard on the first skeletal recordings. This inexperience forced us down on a different path to add meat to the bones. The instruments were downed, and we focused more on sound manipulation, particularly those that were metallic or sonorous. Before long, the calluses on our fingers had eased, and we were at home among flashing lights. These were our first attempts at making a record. Although I say it through squinted eyes, the naivety which used to make me run for cover is now kind of endearing. And there's a few reviews that from very obscure places that I've never heard of. So I don't know if it's a website or it might be a magazine. It's called Animal Psi, PSI. And it says Hearth Part 1 has a pre-classical sensibility with the folksy sound of acoustic strings played over textures of sleigh bells and melodica. Skillfully assembled and presented, the song could be extracted from the choicest of guitar-centered classics. Winter Songs is a tremendous reissue, deserving to be reissued again. Um,
Yes,
and
continue to reissue.
yeah, and Platomiac Terrascope. Yep, me neither. Hearth is a devastatingly effective parlor folk. Guitar and piano counterpoints over a substrate of barely heard bells and swelling drones. The Iditarod comes to mind. I looked it up. It is an annual long-distance sled dog race held in Alaska in early March from Anchorage to Nome. Teams of between 12 and 16 dogs cover the distance in 8 to 15 days or more. That's a hell of a race.
No, it's crazy.
Oh,
You should see
yeah.
footage of it and like the physical endurance that it requires to do it. Not only from the sleigh drivers, but obviously the dogs as well. It's
Yeah, yeah.
incredible.
So yeah, the Iditarod comes to mind, albeit brought in the form of cold, thawed, and comforted with mead and robust rural fare.
Yeah,
And Harvest Home says they're precise yet haunting melodies overlapping in beautiful reveries. Plinth's first release shows brilliant music can be made by artists in the first stages of their creativity. Their rudimentary skill on early skeletal recordings becomes an asset. Minimal, childlike melodies overlap and cascade gently. Music boxes give way to children's singing. This evolves into simple acoustic guitar plucks, distant pianos, and trumpet. It's absolutely stunning. A music of stillness and contemplation linking Eno to Sati. These are both names that have been bandied around the channel. Um, Inobtrusive but moving, it connects with the listener at an instinctive level, taking us back to half-remembered childhoods. There is a charm to the music with birds, train, and teapot all quoted as instruments on the sleeve. When heard, this makes sense. The music exists within the sound environment, merging with the atmosphere to become almost imperceptible. Although winter themed, this is not bleak music. Instead, it invokes hibernation and the sleep before renewal.
yeah,
Yeah, I will say the first track is called 4CS, Lewis. And it starts off with like a music box type sort of chime. Um, and then it sort of goes, it starts off with birdsong, actually. Sorry. This twittering birds. And it goes into this music box chime. And then slowly these voices come up. And I think they're children's voices, but they start singing Hallelujah in a sort of lovely way. And it's just charming. And it's
yeah,
only like a 2 minute song that leads into the next song, which is kind of like a downbeat version of this song, the sort of sister songs. But there's a 16-minute song in different parts, there's a 30-minute song. And the whole album's a delight, but it's very, very much a put it on and just, as you say, sit back in your bay window and watch the world go by and
yeah.
the little patterns that blackbirds make in the snow as they hop along and stuff like that. It's really charming. Um,
There,
and
I just want to say I'm really impressed with their 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 tact here because like if you are self-aware enough to know your limitations as a musician, but are aware enough of what you can do to make it sound like you aren't, that's an incredible, line to
yeah,
toe.
mm,
And then to pull it off because like I listened to this and I described the music as a rudimentary, but I would not have the audacity to say that those who are playing it skills were rudimentary. I would just say that this is how you write a really pretty but simple song. And you have
Mm.
to be a good musician to know how to rein it in, and the levels at which you add certain parts and the time that you do and how to build it in a very natural way. And I would think that all that knowledge to be able to do that would be the knowledge of one who has a strong command of music. And
Mm.
here they're saying that this is kind of like our first shot at doing all of this, and it's really impressive. Because again, I would not have labeled them uh as new to the game, if you will, because it sounded very mature, even though it was simple in some of its musical approach.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a bit of that sort of Orson Welles, isn't there, where he just did what he did because he didn't know any better for
Yeah,
Citizen Kane. He's kind of different, but they knew what they couldn't do, but they didn't know what they were not capable of, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
So they were not going to do Eddie Van Halen, but they could push it and do other stuff, and it creates this, and away you go. So yeah, it's really cool. But they've obviously got a really good ear for what they wanted to construct. And
yeah, no question there.
so yeah, I thought this is something a little bit different, and it's not exactly, Slade or whatever. But it's a nice little number to add to the catalogue of Christmas songs.
Yeah, yeah, without question. This was a way. I'm not even a Christmas Carol guy, as I've mentioned in the past
Same
when
here.
we
Yeah.
talk about this stuff.
So
But this,
we thought we do 4 episodes based on Christmas songs. Yeah.
yeah, but this was kind of a different animal. It's almost seasonal, not as holiday centric. Yet it
Yeah,
still
yeah,
conjures in me memories around the holidays,
yeah,
because there is some Venn diagram shit that happens with those two things, like the wintry months and the holidays, and they can overlap. But this is the best of both worlds, or taps into both those worlds effortlessly and in a very uh emotionally reactive way that I really wasn't anticipating. And I loved it for that.
yeah.
So yeah,
I
this is
guess
a keeper for me.
Yeah, I guess you're right about the seasonal stuff. So, I mean, if you're Australian, probably like the Beach Boys conjures up Christmas, you know.
Yes, yeah, exactly. When you think
Which
about it,
would be
yeah, I've
cool.
never really put myself in that position, but you're right. The whole other side of the world thing.
Anyway, I shall wrap things up. Thanks for listening to this, Andy.
Thank
And
you.
folks out there, if you like this, slap it a yo ho ho and hit that button and drop some comments about this. I think at some point in 2025, I'm going to do some clay pipe music because it's really interesting. It's not
Okay.
everyday stuff, but yeah, we're going from there. Um, yeah, drop some comments. Love to hear what you think about this. If you have any, I've got another Plinth album that's it in terms of my sort of understanding of them. So anyone else who knows anything more about Plinth and Michael Tanner, please drop us a line. Um, and if you haven't subscribed already, treat yourself. It's Christmas. You deserve it, as the adverts say, because you are worth it. And even if you're not worth it, do it anyway. That being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, guys.